There are towns where the silence speaks louder than any voice. Silver Pines was one such place. It was a quiet little town, nestled deep in the heart of the Midwest. Life here was simple, predictable. People knew their neighbors. They knew the rhythms of the seasons. But on a cool autumn morning, that comfortable silence was broken. A new notice appeared on the community bulletin board outside the town hall. It was not a flyer for a bake sale or a lost cat poster. This was something else entirely, something cold and unsettling that would soon wrap its dark fingers around the very soul of the town. The bulletin board was a landmark. It stood under an old oak tree, its cork surface peppered with thumbtacks and faded paper. It was a place for happy announcements and small-town news, births, weddings, local football games. But this new message had no joy in it. It was a single, crisp sheet of white paper, held in place by a single black thumbtack. The morning sun cast a long shadow from the oak tree, making the paper seem even starker, even more out of place. The usual crowd that gathered for their morning coffee and chat did not see it at first, but when they did, a hush fell over them. The town of Silver Pines had always felt safe. It was the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked at night. Children played freely in the streets until the streetlights flickered on, their laughter echoing in the twilight. It was a community built on trust and a shared sense of peace. That single piece of paper on the bulletin board was like a stone tossed into a still pond. The ripples of unease started small, a few whispers, a few nervous glances, but those ripples would soon grow into waves of panic, threatening to drown the entire town in a sea of fear and suspicion. No one knew who put it there. It seemed to have appeared overnight, like a mushroom after a storm. Old Mr. Abernathy, the town's self-appointed historian, swore it wasn't there when he walked his dog the previous evening. The town sheriff, a man who had dealt with little more than traffic tickets and lost pets, just scratched his head. He looked at the paper, then at the faces of the townspeople gathered around. He saw confusion. He saw a little bit of fear, but mostly he saw disbelief. It had to be a joke, a silly, tasteless prank. It just had to be. The message itself was chillingly simple. It was typewritten, the letters stark and black against the white page. The words were not emotional or angry. They were cold, factual, and devoid of any human touch. There was no signature, no clue as to who had written it. It was an anonymous prophecy of doom, delivered with the impersonal finality of a telegram. The message listed 5 dates, spread out over the next few weeks. Beside each date was a simple, terrifying promise. It said that on these days someone from Silver Pines would die. It did not say who. It did not say how. The 5 dates were laid out in a neat column: October 12th, October 19th, October 26th, November 2nd, November 9th. Underneath the list, a single sentence was typed. Their time in Silver Pines has come to an end. The clean, mechanical font of the typewriter made it feel even more sinister. It was as if some unseen machine was methodically planning the town's destruction. The lack of names was perhaps the most frightening part. Every resident of Silver Pines was now a potential victim. Every face in the crowd could be the next one to disappear from their quiet lives forever. At first, the town tried to laugh it off. Teenagers were blamed. It was probably some kids who had watched too many scary movies, a prank to stir up some excitement in their sleepy town. The sheriff told everyone to calm down and go about their business. He took the note down and filed it away, calling it nuisance mischief. But even as people tried to dismiss it, the note lingered in their minds. A seed of doubt had been planted. The dates were now marked in their collective memory, ticking away like a hidden clock. They tried to ignore it, but the whisper of what if was hard to silence. Ellie, a single mother who worked at the local diner, was among those who tried to ignore it. She had more important things to worry about, like paying her bills and raising her 10-year-old son, Leo. She told her friends it was just some idiot's idea of a joke, but late at night, After Leo was asleep, she would find herself thinking about that note. She thought about the first date, October 12th, which was only a week away. She would look at her son sleeping peacefully in his bed, and a cold shiver would run down her spine. The town wanted to believe it was a prank, but a dark cloud had gathered on the horizon. The week passed, and the town of Silver Pines almost forgot about the note. The sun shone, people went to work, and life seemed to return to normal. October 12th arrived, a crisp and clear autumn day. That morning, a new detail appeared on the bulletin board. The original note was back, but this time, next to the date October 12th, a name had been written in neat penciled letters. The name was Leo, Ellie's son. When the news spread, a wave of unease washed over the town. It was still a prank, people told each other. A cruel, targeted prank. But the playfulness was gone. Now it felt personal and mean. Ellie was frantic. She kept Leo home from school. She locked the doors and windows of their small house, refusing to let him out of her sight. She called the sheriff, but what could he do? There was no crime, just a name written on a piece of paper. He promised to send a patrol car by her house a few times during the day. As the hours ticked by, Ellie's fear grew. She tried to play games with Leo to keep his spirits up, but her heart was pounding in her chest. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside, sent a jolt of terror through her. The day dragged on, each minute an eternity. As evening fell, Ellie started to relax, just a little. The sun was setting and the day was almost over. Nothing had happened. She began to feel foolish for her panic. She made dinner, and Leo chattered happily about his favorite superheroes. For a moment, it felt like any other night. After dinner, Leo went to his room to play. Ellie was washing the dishes when she realized the house had gone quiet. Too quiet. "Leo?" she called out. There was no answer. She called his name again, louder this time, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. She ran to his room. It was empty. The window was wide open, the curtains fluttering in the cold night breeze. His favorite toy car was on the floor, as if dropped in a hurry. Leo was gone. He had vanished without a sound. The police searched all night. The entire town joined in, their flashlights cutting through the darkness of the woods and fields around Silver Pines. They called his name until their voices were hoarse, but they found nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. The first prophecy had come true. The prank was no longer a prank. It was a terrifying reality. After Leo's disappearance, the mood in Silver Pines changed completely. The laughter was gone, replaced by hushed, fearful whispers. The bulletin board was no longer a place for community news. It was now a monument to their terror. The note remained, a constant reminder of the darkness that had descended upon them. The second date, October 19th, was approaching fast. No one knew whose name would appear next. The simple, everyday routines of the town were shattered. Parents walked their children to and from school, holding their hands tightly. The streets grew empty after dark. Trust had vanished. Suspicion began to creep into the town like a fog. People started looking at their neighbors differently. Was the person you had known your whole life capable of such evil? The friendly butcher? The quiet librarian? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said it was a curse. Others believed it was a secret cult. Every stranger who passed through town was met with hostile stares. The sense of community that had once defined Silver Pines was crumbling, replaced by an atmosphere of paranoia. Everyone was a potential victim, and everyone was a potential suspect. When the morning of October 19th arrived, the town held its breath. A small, brave crowd gathered near the bulletin board before sunrise. There, under the second date, was a new name scrawled in the same neat pencil handwriting. Mr. Abernathy, the old historian. He was found later that morning. The official report said he had a heart attack, but everyone in town knew the truth. His name was on the board. He was the second victim. The pattern was undeniable. The fear in Silver Pines turned into full-blown panic. The prophecies were real. A week later, on October 26th, a third name appeared, a high school football player. He died in a tragic car accident on a lonely country road that very evening. The town was now living in a nightmare. People started to leave. Families packed their bags in the dead of night, fleeing the cursed town. Those who remained lived in a constant state of anxiety. They avoided the town center, they avoided the bulletin board, but they couldn't avoid the calendar. The next date, November 2nd, was looming, a dark promise of another life to be taken. The investigation went nowhere. The sheriff and his small team were overwhelmed. They had no leads, no suspects, and no explanation for the events plaguing their town. The typewritten note and the penciled names were the only clues, but they led to a dead end. The paper was common, the typewriter untraceable, the pencil handwriting generic. As the fear intensified, the townspeople grew desperate for an answer, for someone to blame. And slowly, like a compass needle finding north, their suspicion began to turn in one direction. It turned towards Ellie. People started whispering. Why was her son the first? She was seen near the bulletin board a few times, late at night, standing alone in the dark. Someone claimed they saw her staring at the note, her face pale in the moonlight. Was it grief, or was it something more sinister? The rumors grew more vicious. They said she was unstable after her husband left. They said she craved attention. The logic was twisted, born from terror, but it began to make a strange kind of sense to the frightened residents. She was at the center of it all. She had to be involved. The breaking point came when the sheriff, acting on an anonymous tip, searched Ellie's house. In a dusty box in her attic, they found it. An old typewriter, the same model as the one used to type the note. And in a drawer in her bedside table, they found a box of pencils, sharpened to a fine point, just like the one used to write the names. The evidence was circumstantial, but in the terrified town of Silver Pines, it was enough. Ellie was brought in for questioning. She denied everything, her voice choked with tears and disbelief. She said she had no idea how those things were connected, but the town had already made up its mind. She was the monster they had been looking for. The looks she received were no longer filled with pity, but with hatred and accusation. Her friends stopped talking to her. She became an outcast, a prisoner in her own home, haunted by the loss of her son and the scorn of her neighbors. As the fourth date, November 2nd, approached, the town watched her, convinced that she would soon reveal the next name. But when the day came, the name that appeared on the board was not one anyone expected. It was the sheriff's. He died of an apparent stroke that afternoon, and Ellie had been in custody the entire time. With the sheriff's death, the case against Ellie collapsed. She was released, but she was not free. The suspicion lingered in the eyes of the townspeople, even if they couldn't explain how she could be responsible. The town was now completely broken. It was a place of ghosts and haunted memories. The final date on the note, November 9th, was just days away. No one knew what to expect. Some prayed, some packed their remaining belongings and fled. The few who remained waited, trapped in a state of suspended terror for the final prophecy to be fulfilled. On the morning of November 9th, the last name appeared on the board. It was Ellie's. A wave of shock and a strange, twisted sense of relief washed over the community. If she was the final victim, perhaps the curse would finally be over. But Ellie did not die. She simply vanished. Just like her son, she disappeared from her locked house without a trace. Her disappearance was the final, chilling chapter in the town's nightmare. The note, its purpose seemingly fulfilled, also vanished from the bulletin board that night, leaving only the empty thumbtack hole as evidence it was ever there. Years have passed. Silver Pines is not the town it once was. Many houses sit empty, their windows like vacant eyes. The people who stay do not speak of that autumn. They try to forget the Eerie bulletin board and the 5 names that sealed their fates. But the mystery was never solved. Who wrote the note? Where did Ellie and her son go? Was it the work of a person or something else? Something ancient and supernatural that resides in the quiet woods surrounding the town. The questions hang in the air, unanswered. Today is July 5th, 2025. The bulletin board still stands under the old oak tree. It is mostly empty now. People are afraid to use it. But sometimes, on a quiet night, residents say they can see a faint glow coming from the board. They say that if you look closely, you can almost see the shadow of a new piece of paper, waiting for a new list of dates to be written. The story of Silver Pines serves as a chilling reminder. It suggests that for some mysteries there are no solutions, and for some curses there is no end.